Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Network premiere podcast right here on the W2M network. This is Damn You Hollywood, and here's your host, Winfree. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when he comes for you? Winfree. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when he comes for you?
You know, I really walked into that one, didn't I?
I have been practicing that all day, and had I been able to find the specific lyrics to the H2O cover that I was just mimicking, I would have done the entire first verse because they changed the lyrics.
I know you would have. I really do.
There was something about protein shakes in there. It's been a while since I've heard it. Well, not that long because we used it on the Power Man and Iron Fist show.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Damn You Hollywood. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time since Andrew Graham and I last week had a somewhat thoughtful, historical discussion of the nuances of history and filmcraft in 1917, tonight Mark and I will be reviewing Bad Boys for Life, and you are in for a wildly different experience.
Oh, boy. This is practically a different show.
You are not wrong. Yeah. Mark, I want it known I hate you for this movie. I really do.
I understand.
On the plus side, it has recently come to my attention, and we'll get into this when we talk about craft, but you hated this almost as much as I did for completely different reasons.
You know what's amazing? I saw this and I saw Doolittle all in the same weekend.
And you're not dead?
And in both cases, I was like, wow, I've never been so disappointed and let down for my, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do yet another week and another show in a row where I continually people are going to start thinking no.
Mark, I give you permission. It's okay. Just do it.
I went into The Rise of Skywalker knowing it was going to be horse shit, and it was. It's just 2 hours of nonsense. So you can't be let down when your expectations are so low. Granted, they didn't even...
That is my life motto, by the way, just so everyone knows.
Granted, they didn't even meet the expectation I set, which wasn't high. They still limboed under it somehow. Like my son, who, just like you think he can't bend over backwards that low, but then he finds a new level. Well, I had high expectations, believe it or not, for Bad Boys for Life, because I just watched the first one, directed by really one of film's great treasures, Michael Bay.
Oh, so help me God, I will fly down there and beat you in front of your family to within an inch of your life if you mention Michael Bay like that again.
Would you hit a man with glasses? I have glasses
yes.
now. I need him to drive, like an old man.
I do not care.
Would you beat a man who was mortally wounded and ill?
Yes.
Oh, damn you.
What? You tried to appeal to my honor when you said Michael Bay is a national treasure. Like, no, buddy.
He is one of film's great treasures. Really?
No, that is absolutely categorically inaccurate.
Michael Bay has given us some of the most wonderful and successful films. Really, when you think of if you think of Hollywood as a medium, not just film, but just when you were a little girl, Robert Winfree, and you sat in front of your mirror. You sat on your stool with your makeup mirror in front of you and your big mirror behind that, and you put on makeup and you dreamed of being a Hollywood starlet like I know you did. You thought of bright lights, big city, cameras, movie stars, just excitement, just everything that, the perception of what Hollywood could be. And that is what Michael Bay brings to film. He celebrates it like an orgy. There's no more to that sentence. Just an orgy. Okay? It is a celebration of life in its most zestful and barbaric and animalistic form. I love Michael Bay.
Michael Bay is the directorial equivalent of Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, that's not nice.
It is, however, accurate.
I'm not going to argue with you. Anyway, having said all that...
It's because I'm right. Look, the average Michael Bay movie might as well just be Harvey Weinstein's ejaculate onto his plastic plant.
As long as something was blowing up in the background, I would be entertained by that. Now look, you see Bad Boys with Madam Secretary Tay Leone and Will Smith at the height of his powers and Martin Lawrence before he got fat and crazy, and you think, this is what Hollywood is all about.
No one thought that.
Everybody thought that.
No one thought that. Here's what everyone thought about the original Bad Boys. Here's a crappy Lethal Weapon knockoff with a greater focus on the female anatomy, explosions, and circling camera shots, which is what we got.
Listen, when you think about Bad Boys, okay, and the history of film and Hollywood, and really...
It does not rate.
It goes like this. Birth of a Nation... Gone with the Wind, The Sound of Music, Casablanca, Bad Boys.
Can you please stop with this shtick? You are only making yourself sound even dumber.
I might have gotten those movies out of order. The point here is that I went into Bad Boys for Life thinking I was going to see a Bad Boys movie, and what I got was a hollow, thoughtless...
So a Bad Boys movie.
Perversion of a Lethal Weapon movie.
So a Bad Boys movie. Gotcha.
I said this to you offline, and I told you some of this was going to be a bit of repetition in our discussion, but Bad Boys for Life comes across like... Sony executives sitting around a table going, what IP haven't we ruined yet? They were like, well, we haven't done a Bad Boys movie in like 20 years. Will Smith is available. Martin Lawrence is available and currently not, on a coke bender.
That we know of.
Let's see if we can make some hay out of that. And somebody else at the table went, okay, but let's not do it crass. Let's not do it the Michael Bay way. Maybe let's try to elevate this and tell a story here about the nature of man and growing old and, dealing with the consequences of a life devoted to murder. Which isn't a Bad Boys movie, and it irritated the shit out of me.
Okay, there's a few things I want to circle back to about the points you made there, and...
What, do you think I'm crazy? Do you think I'm crazy, huh?
Well, yes, but not for those reasons.
Gone with the... No, go ahead.
Just for the record, I think that there is a way to tell this kind of, meditation on aging while still doing a Bad Boys movie.
Sure.
But since both Will Smith and the character he plays in this franchise thinks he's still 20, he refused to actually go along with any of the narrative beats that would play into that. All right, anyway. Let's go over the plot of this, such as it is. Okay, for the record...
You owe me a beer, by the way.
I most certainly do not.
No, we said it at the same time, so Jinx, you owe me a beer.
I am not buying you a beer.
You're no fun at all.
I am aware of that. For the record, this movie is 2 hours and 4 minutes long.
And it feels every bit of its length.
It feels longer.
Endgame felt less long.
I spent less time waiting for Godot than I did waiting for this movie to freaking end.
So, can I tell you something really quick about Waiting for Godot?
Sure.
I, first of all, loved... I don't remember if it was college or high school where I first got exposed to Waiting for Godot, but I remember reading it and really falling in love with it. I just thought the idea of Waiting for Godot... I don't know why it appealed to me, but it did. Something about maybe, false hopes and dreamers and whatnot speaks to something in my soul. Who knows? But I will tell you that just the phrase "waiting for Godot" I've used in a lot of common parlance. The way you just use it, I waited for X longer than I waited for Godot. And people laugh because, one, they don't know what the fuck waiting for Godot is, but I say it funny. Sometimes inflection is funnier than the actual words you use, and I can get usually a chuckle out of it, or people get it, and they're like, yeah, I waited for the thing, and it never came. All right, so I said it to this one person, and they just looked at me quizzically and said, who the fuck is Godot?
Oh.
And then I walked into the woods to live deliberately, which they also did not know.
Like, did you summarily cut this person out of your life?
Probably. I've cut a lot of people out of my life in 44 years of living.
If you can't at least pick up on the context clues for that and play along, you are just a troglodyte of the highest order.
I have met some dumb people in my time.
I mean, you work in a jail. I expect you have.
I'm sure it was even before that. But
probably. I mean, you worked for the government before that.
Between waiting for Godot and walking into the woods to live deliberately, I quote a lot of high literature in my common parlance to get laughs, and people get it enough that they can stay with me. But I lose the occasional person who has no fucking clue what I'm talking about. Anyway, Bad Boys.
I don't. Yeah, you don't need to be able to write a dissertation on waiting for Godot. You just need to be a culturally literate human being. And for some reason, this
good
is
luck
lost.
finding one.
Yeah. Anyway, so Bad Boys for Life opens with ye old stereotypical car.
How
chase.
bad is it that I'm one of your most culturally? I'm one of. I don't know how many you've got, but I'm at least one of your more culturally literate friends.
Look, the fact that you choose to engage with the world the way that you do, and I do not mean this negatively. You choose to engage with the world on the terms that you do. You are a very well-read, you have experienced a great deal, and you can certainly discuss things on a higher level than you generally choose to, because you choose not to. And hey, Godspeed and party on. It's your life. You have to get through it the best that you can.
I told somebody today that I shan't be mocked, and everybody in the room went, "Shan't?" And I'm like, "Correct, I shan't." And I proceeded to stick up my chin and
Did you
march out of the room.
At that point, you need a white glove to smack someone on the face with.
Well, the person
It is pistols at dawn, sir.
Well, you know what? Next time I see him, I might do that. Though I tend to think that me bringing a gun into the jail isn't really worth the gag. But I might try because I am a fan of gags. Speaking of gags, Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah, this opens with ye old stereotypical, they're going on a chase, but it's actually to make sure they get to the birth of Martin Lawrence's first grandchild, which I called immediately. Like, they get into this thing, and, we're cutting off streets. Like, they're rushing to some kind of childbirth, aren't they? And sure enough, we also see the escape from prison of unnamed this actress, actually, Kate Del Castillo, who does a lot of... I've seen her in a couple of things that are basically the same role, like female Mexican drug lord.
Yeah, I was looking to see if she's the one that's in Queen of the South.
No, she's in like Reina del Sol and
she was on Weeds.
Noble.
That's where I recognized her from.
Okay, in the same role, I imagine.
Yup.
That's what this woman does. And hey, if you cash those checks, Godspeed and party on. We see her escape from prison and be rescued by a character who I believe goes unnamed through the entire movie. Like, I fired up the wiki after I saw it, like, Armando. Did they ever actually say his name in the movie? I don't think they did. Anyway, as she is his mother, he helps her get out of prison. At the celebration for Marcus's grandchild being born, he expresses a desire to retire. Mike Lowry, of course, has no plans for life past 30 and is now desperately trying to cling to the illusion that he's still...
What's his name?
Which one?
Will Smith's character.
Mike.
No, his full name.
I am not doing that gag.
Mike Lowry. You gotta say it from.
Okay.
You gotta say it from your
the
loins, dude. Loins.
For the record, if anyone out there hasn't seen the Honest trailer for the first two Bad Boys movies, it is more engaging and entertaining than the actual movies.
Mike Lowry. Do it with gold dust motions. It's even better. Just Mike Lowry.
I'm not getting into this with you. Anyway, as Marcus has expressed this desire, he and Mike decide to have a foot race where the winner decides whether or not... Who decides major life choices via foot race anymore, for the record? I know that, like, if you get into Greek mythology, like Atlatl... I think it was Atlatl. Atlanta?
Adelaide?
She has some weird... I apologize. There's a bunch of T's, A's, and L's in her name, and I can never remember the proper order. But she was this tremendous athlete, and she said, okay, fine, I will get married only to the man who can beat me in a foot race. And no one could beat her in a race until... some guy actually went to collect a couple of the golden apples of Irisid, which are beautiful beyond compare, and no one can resist. And then as they're racing, he comes back with 3 of them. They start racing. She starts running ahead. He throws an apple off the course. She sees it and is intrigued and has to run over to get it, allowing him to get further ahead. He does this 3 times. He eventually wins. And point being, no one recently decides things via foot race. And for some reason they do, but as they are racing, Armando drives by on a bike and shoots Mike a couple of times in the chest. Drives off, leaves him to die. He does not die because, despite excellent grouping, firing an automatic weapon on a moving motorcycle at a moving target, despite his excellent marksmanship, he does not die. Should have, based on the wounds, but does not die because then we wouldn't have a movie. Wouldn't that just be a shame? Armando is reprimanded by his mother, who wants Mike to die last. We find out Armando shows up, kills a few other people, takes over a bunch of territory in gangland Miami, and begins his campaign of retribution on the justice system for putting his drug king father away. Like you do.
Well, in his defense, he wants the drug king father to be alive and well and free.
Yes, and this will clearly resurrect the dead.
It's not out of the realm of his character to not give a shit about the law and would prefer to have his father.
He's not a character.
Fair enough, but look, there's a lot to take issue with this movie. That's a silly one. Oh, look, the villain deplores good and relishes evil. Well, what a weird concept.
I only bring it up because in about 2 hours, he's going to find out, wait, my dad's a cop, my life is a lie. And now I must devote myself to the forces of good and appear in the Suicide Squad sequel.
Works for me. Go on.
Shut up. It does not work for you. You know what? It probably does, actually. Anyway. So he kills a bunch of other people, prosecutors, forensic people, judges, again, like you do. Mike, after returning, is able to survive, gets back on his feet. They attend the wedding of Marcus's daughter to the father of her child. Those events happen. Normally those events happen in the other order, but hey, what do I know? Michael Bay shows up to be the MC of the wedding. I wanted to throw something at the screen, just for the record. The fact that they show him and then immediately do 3 full 360-degree shots has to be some kind of rib. Anyway, it is there that Mike learns that Marcus has in fact retired, in no small part because Marcus, as Mike was lying on the operating table, prayed to God and said if Mike survives, he will do no more violence in the world. And hey, fair enough. We all make covenants with the Lord. And to help facilitate this, he has now retired. And this causes a rift between the two of them. Mike wants to investigate his own case because he's a loose cannon who's on probation. Or suspension, isn't that how it usually goes? You're a loose cannon, McClane, and you're still on suspension. He goes to a barbecue joint and smashes poor DJ Khaled's hand with a meat tenderizer because DJ Khaled in Miami, I guess. I don't know. That's about all I got there. Gets the name of the person who sold the ammunition that shot him. He and the new elite task force group of young up-and-coming police force. There's no actual concept of division of labor within the police department. The people who wrote this have no actual idea about anything loosely related to law enforcement. I have to say that right now. Anyway, they go to arrest the guy who sold the bullets. He's in the midst of being ripped off. There's a gunfight. There's an explosion. The guy they're looking for dies. No leads are obtained until Marcus is retired. Marcus gets a call on his personal private line from a former CI who's now afraid of the guy who shot Mike and is now trying to kill him. So he and Mike go to meet him. He gets thrown off a roof. Mike fights with Armando, loses. But this gives them something else to kind of go on. And then, at some point in the future, for undisclosed reasons, Mike goes to see his captain, Joe Pantoliano, who is with his daughter or granddaughter, it's not clear which, who's in the midst of a basketball game of some variety. As they are leaving, who dispenses ancient Buddhist wisdom, which should have been like the biggest death flag in the world to anyone paying half a bit of attention. As they go to leave, Armando shoots him in the neck and kills him. However, the death prompts Marcus to unretire, immediately restoring him to the same privileges in the police department he had before. None of this is how this works. But anyway, he's now willing to come back, so they start looking for further leads. They find coked up John Goodman, arrest him, use some of the information that they get from him to track down a low-level gangster who got promoted after Armando took things over.
God, I hated that scene, by the way. Like, I don't know in what context I can bring that back up when we're doing a craft review.
No,
that
please.
Scene sucked.
Which one?
When they go to see the guy on coke, and Martin Lawrence chooses at that moment, at that time, to utilize
diplomacy
to try.
I will use rhetoric.
Yeah.
To talk down this coked up lunatic.
I don't want to get off on a rant here, and I don't want to talk about my job. But if someone brings, I work in booking, and if somebody brings someone to my desk from the outside that is messed up enough on drugs that I can't get a coherent answer out of them, and whatever answer I do get is suspect anyway because they're not reliable, while fucked up beyond all recognition on drugs, I don't continue the interview. I say, I'm done. Take them away. What the fuck?
You're the Imperial Lord Radulich. I am done with this peasant. Please remove them.
I have done that. Oh, away with him.
I mean, you have to amuse yourself somehow, I guess.
The deputies are very used to me.
Anyway, so they go to a club because, just coincidentally enough, this guy is celebrating his birthday at a club. Given that, and now we must have copious shots of, women who are scantily clad. We go in, we try to arrest him, he escapes because these are the worst, I just have to say this, these are the worst police officers in the world. Like, hey, there's 5 of us, none of us are going to cover the exits to this building.
Don't make me laugh.
So when this guy jumps off of the second-story balcony, goes down and runs out the front door.
I'm like, oh, our game plan to stand like a rugby team or the front line of a football team didn't work. He ran the other way.
It's just these are the worst cops. He gets on a motorcycle. They all get out and they start and big car chase, explosions, gunfire. This all culminates with this gangster and Mike on a rope ladder hanging from a helicopter where Armando is. Armando shoots this gangster in the head to get a better shot at Mike. Then utilizes a phrase that freaks Mike out. He drops to avoid being shot in the head. Martin Lawrence provides covering fire with a gun despite it not having an ammo source anymore. Mike... This bit of information is all that Mike needs to then eventually relay to Marcus the one time he fell in love. Basically, he was Leonardo DiCaprio from The Departed before the first Bad Boys movie. He got pulled out of the academy, sent deep undercover into this drug cartel, fell in love with the cartel boss's wife, who is, of course, our female Mexican drug lord now. And he is, based on all available evidence now, believes that Armando is actually his son, and he is deeply shaken to his core by the fact that this other person exists. And so he decides to head to Mexico now to have a final confrontation. Marcus, of course, goes with him because, hey, I only have a family. I'll charge into a suicide mission. The rest of this other team show up. Oh, there's a bit of a quasi-romantic subplot between Mike and the leader of this division, a lieutenant, who apparently had a thing. I don't think that character was in Bad Boys 2, so she's just one of his many miscellaneous exes. They go to a set piece from... The entire final action set piece here was basically like a leftover action set piece from The Expendables 3. If you saw the final scene there in that big casino building, you saw the final shootout that they have in the hotel here. Again, big final shootout. People die. We get the two big stupid visual effects on this one, guys. Not only do we get night and rain, we get fire. Is there anything else they could have thrown in here?
Hot hail.
Look, flaming hail would have been nice, but
has there really been a good flaming hail movie since Flash Gordon?
When did Flash Gordon come out?
Let's go with the early 80s.
Flash Gordon is not a good movie, first of all.
Go fuck yourself.
Second of all, if we're going with since Flash Gordon, I don't know when the original Ten Commandments came out, but it is in that.
Okay. We'll come back to this later. This is very important to me.
Yes.
Top 10 movies that utilize hot hail.
So maybe Prince of Egypt, the animated movie?
No, they have to be live action.
Okay. I have to think about that. Anyway. So, again, big finale. Armando is informed that Will Smith is his father, at which point he demands half of everything. What is her name? Isabel? Yeah, Isabel is shot by somebody else. Armando, with the knowledge that his father is a murderous police officer, decides that, well, when I thought my father was a murderous drug lord, I had to be on this path. If my father is a murderous cop, this changes everything. My entire ethos is called into question here. I will become a good man and voluntarily pay my debt to society after murdering so many public officials that there's no chance they don't just stick a needle in my arm.
You know, it's a shame that the Fast and the Furious movies are Universal, and this is Sony, because the way that ended perfectly sets up a Bad Boys, Hobbs and Shaw crossover. And
Please, hang on. We're not actually done yet. Hang
oh,
on.
okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because this movie doesn't end. They all go back to Miami, where Rita is promoted to captain, which would never happen given the disaster that her previous project.
They would all be. Please don't. They would all have been. They would have all gone to prison. Pretty sure Mike Lowry would have been executed.
I mean, like, even within the internal logic of this franchise, there's no way Rita would have been promoted.
It's true.
Like, again, I'm not talking about reality here. Like, just the verisimilitude of this world, she still would not have been promoted.
Yeah.
They leave the baby with Mike, who finally holds the baby. Everyone then abandons him with the child. And sometime later, we see him go visit Armando in prison, where he basically becomes Amanda Waller talking to the Suicide Squad, saying, hey, I got something that might help you pay down your debt to society, and then we will get a sequel that is, again, like Suicide Squad for the bad boys.
Isn't that the direction the Fast and the Furious movies went in, where like Jason Statham was in prison, but they let him out to do missions, and fuck, Vin Diesel was like, hey, we know you're a wanted criminal and bank robber, but we ran out of CIA guys, so wanna?
Hang on. Are we really going to say that more movies going the narrative direction of the Fast and the Furious franchise is a good thing?
I think it needs to be acknowledged that it's a thing, because it's the first thing I thought of when I saw that.
Yeah, again, the first thing I thought of was, oh god, he's in Suicide Squad, isn't he? Because Will Smith's in Suicide Squad, so hey!
I don't think the DC EU and the Bad Boys universe are the same place.
Are you sure? Because they do kind of line up.
I'm fairly certain they're just copying what they did in the Fast and the Furious movies. That it's no more than that, which is quite enough. All right, let's talk about the craft of this movie.
Look, you get better craft with like Kraft mac and cheese than you do in this movie.
All right, let's be fair.
That is a fair thing. You want me to be angry about this movie?
If I may have my piece, sir.
I don't know, will you?
To talk about the craft of this movie.
You can speak.
Because I think it's very clear that I did not love the tenor and pitch of this movie. I feel like it does a disservice to those of us who enjoyed the crass nature of the first two Bad Boys movies. By the way, if you'll take a walk with me down memory lane, and we'll cover this in greater detail this Thursday on Trial for the Bad Boys franchise, myself and Sean Comer. But there's a scene at the end of Bad Boys 2 where they are literally driving down a mountainside, destroying houses by driving through them. Just one right after another.
I recall that scene, actually. I've seen both of those movies. It's been probably about closer to 20 years than I care to think about. Yeah, my dad rented them for him and I to watch one night. And, I mean, look, me of 20 years ago was not terribly entertained by these movies when I was in the target demographics.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm laughing. I remember distinctly laughing so hard at that because of the over-the-top Tex Avery cartoon nature of it, that these two defenders of good and righteousness, these to serve and protect duo of police officers, are driving through people's homes in a high-speed chase down a mountainside. Boy, had Bad Boys 2 just gone off the fucking deep end. But I loved it. And that's and all kidding aside, that's what I love about Michael Bay movies. That's why I have come so hard and defended the Transformers movies and, and a lot of...
Hold on. If you want to defend Michael Bay movies, there's a few you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few that I enjoy. The Transformers movies are indefensible, especially as they keep going.
Well, look. Again, I don't need to sit here and spell out for you the exact Transformers movies that I think are defensible and the ones that aren't. I'm making a general statement.
All right. You believe there are movies in Michael Bay's filmography that are worth defending. Fair
Right.
enough.
Look, just like I said about Hobbs and Shaw earlier last year, and around, I guess it was August. You go into a dumb action movie, expect a dumb action movie. You go into a Michael Bay dumb action movie, there are certain aesthetic things, there are certain camera tricks he uses. Again, go watch the Honest trailer. It pretty much spells it out for you.
Low angle shots, a lot of circling 360s, a lot of women with no dialogue or personalities.
Even something that is devoid of explosions per se that I recall, and we tried to be about something like Pain and Gain. You know, which is I liked it. I liked that movie. Like, Michael Bay speaks to a very guttural nature of men. You know, it speaks to a it speaks to a they call it toxic masculinity. I just think it's masculinity.
Okay, just stop there. I do not believe there's such a thing as toxic masculinity.
I don't either.
I think there are just stupidly toxic people.
Sure.
If you look, yeah, Michael Bay does try to appeal to the basest urges of what is traditionally masculine, sure.
Yes. And so, to get to the point, that is present in most of his movies, if not all of them. And that is what I came to expect in this Bad Boys movie, and it's not there. It just isn't. This lacks that it lacks that crassness. It lacks that, calling out of the most basest nature of the average man that I think made those movies charming. That being said, let me talk about some very specific craft things that are both good, bad, and ugly in this movie. The themes of this movie, dealing with one's own mortality, age, everything. I'm not even going to get into its well-worn territory. We talked earlier about this sort of apes the themes and the themes of Lethal Weapon, which Lethal Weapon is a far superior series.
Yeah, this is basically a much, much dumber version of the themes that were kind of intelligently explored in Lethal Weapon 3 and a little bit in 4.
But that's the thing. I think one of the worst things about this movie is that it, as much as one can personify an object such as a movie, it thinks it's deep when it's shallow by talking about these things. You use the word meditation. This meditation on Mike Lowry's life lived, shooting people to death, and bad choices that he's made and everything. This is supposed to be in 2020 a deep, thoughtful meditation about these things, but it's not. It's shallow. It's a dumb person's perspective on these things, thinking they've captured something deep about man. So all of that doesn't work for me. And while this thing is getting high marks from critics, and boy, will we talk about that later, I think...
I do not know. I understand why the audience score for this is so high.
Well, sure.
I do not know why the critics
Oh, I know why the critics
this.
are. Did you see the Deadline article I sent you today? This thing's marketing campaign, and this was brilliant. They went about attaching a lot of the subtext to the movie of, well, if you don't like this movie, maybe you're not a great person. There's a lot of that going on here. A lot of subtext around... This is a movie you're supposed to like. And so all the critics...
If you don't like this, it must be because... I read most of that article. Yeah, I don't know. I must have skipped over parts of it or...
Go back and look through the marketing of it.
Maybe it's the racism. If you don't like this, I mean, how could you hate a movie with two black men in the lead?
Right. There's a lot of that here. So... And so the critics who all want to be invited to the parties and don't want to lose their jobs because because someone called them a racist on Twitter, line right up and we're like, oh my god, it's amazing, but it's not. I have no masters to serve here. This thing is shallow as a kid's pool.
Your son would be disappointed in the depth of this movie.
Martin Lawrence is less. I'll tell you what, Martin Lawrence probably gives the best performance out of everyone in this film. And I'll go as far as to say he probably gives a better performance here than he does in the previous two movies. Because in the previous two movies, he was kind of that era's Tracy Morgan. He's just like a half-retarded, shrieking idiot. Oh, idiot, half-retarded.
So Chris Tucker.
Well, no, because Chris Tucker was a whole other thing.
Chris Tucker's a poor man's Eddie Murphy.
Yes. Tracy Morgan, as a modern comic, kind of plays the, again, half an idiot, just has no clue what's going on. The humor is kind of him bumblefucking his way through things. That was Martin Lawrence's gag back in the day. And you watch it in the first two Bad Boys, he's just reacting to Mike and everything else blowing up around him. And you laugh because he's a clown. He's a clown reacting to explosions. And in this one, Martin Lawrence actually, and to the movie's credit, gives what passes in this movie as a dramatic performance. Now, there are times, like in the scene with the cokehead, where I wanted to throw my shoe at the screen because it was misplaced and poorly directed, and I don't understand why they wrote it that way. But I'm not blaming that on Martin Lawrence. If Martin Lawrence is supposed to be thoughtful about his station in life and where he is, he's a 50, 60 some odd year old man at this point, and he's like, I'm done. I'm just fucking done, and I've earned it. And, his asshole of a partner keeps dragging him back into firefights. Okay, I'm with you there, but he suddenly turns it all around, and now he's being a clown again, and the director is saying, the two Belgian directors are like, here, in this scene, I need you to react to being beaten up by a fat white cokehead. And he's like, okay, ka-ching. And he does it well enough. So I give high marks to Martin Lawrence, who I feel like this whole movie rests on his shoulders. He's the only thing for me that works in this movie in terms of a performance. Because everybody else either doesn't have enough to do or kind of just gives a by-the-numbers, cops destroying half of Los Angeles kind of a thing. Everybody plays their stereotypical roles in a flat, stereotypical manner, and it's like, yeah, you either accept it because it's, on the low end, it's kind of a part of these types of movies, or you don't. So let's talk about Will Smith.
Do we have to?
Gosh. I don't think Will Smith gives a bad performance so much as I think his character's terrible.
Here's what goes on in this, and I'll kind of go with this one. He's bad. He's a terrible character, just at a base level.
Yes, absolutely.
Mike Lowry is
who?
I'm not doing it. He is the biggest.
Want me to do it for you?
No.
Want me to hold it for you?
I'll
hold it for you.
No, just stop. He is like the biggest douchebag you could meet. He's a terrible person.
Yep.
This is compounded by writing decisions in the plot that give Will Smith the occasional excuse to just try very, very hard to be an actor. That's not, again, Will Smith is not a bad actor, but it's also very, very obvious when he goes into actor mode.
I think he's trying very, very hard to elevate what is both a shitty character, crappily written. And look, there's only so much lifting. Will Smith is a fine actor. He's not a great actor. And so I think sometimes he pulls his back out trying to elevate material that has no business being elevated. I don't think fucking Jack Nicholson could elevate some of the shit that he's given.
And realistically, the fact that he tries to elevate it just honestly makes it worse than if you lean into it.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know how bright any of these people are in the room that worked on this. Again, I go back to that Deadline article that talked about he was part of the pre-production here. He sat down with Sony and these two Belgian directors, and I think they're Belgian. I hate. So sorry if I fucked up their nationality, but I have to go back to the article again. But he was part of the decision making that guided the.
Hang on, for the record, yes, Belgian.
Thank you. That he was part of.
These two morons are doing Beverly Hills Cop 4.
I weep for humanity. First of all, leave that fucking franchise alone. Second of all, no. You gave us Bad Boys 3. We're getting a Bad Boys 4. Sorry, Robert. Please don't touch Beverly Hills Cop. It is one of those franchises, just as an aside, and you can check out what Sean and I said about it on Long Road to Ruin back in the archives, wherever you can find it these days, that it is a lovely piece of archaic filmmaking from a bygone era that has no place in 2020. Just leave it alone. God damn. Anyway, my thoughts on Beverly Hills Cop aside. I think just the people in this room, I think if we had them right here and we were interviewing them and, we weren't antagonizing them to punch one of us in the face, namely me, I think they would tell you that they thought they'd put out a damn good product. And I think anyone listening to this podcast would point to the audience scores, the critic scores, and how much the movie made and say, this is universally praised. What the fuck are you two on about? Well, sometimes the Emperor's not wearing any clothing despite everybody else in the room, in the world, saying, what a lovely robe he's got on. Fuck you people.
Look, I get why this movie is making money.
Sure.
I get why people who saw it think highly of it. It checks a bunch of boxes that are going to lead people to that. There is circumstances and dialogue that I suppose could be construed as witty.
I chuckled a few times, I'm not going to lie.
Once. There was one scene in this movie that actually got me nearly laughing. When they drop the baby off at the spa, and Will Smith, opens the door slowly, slides it in, and as he's leaving, he's starting to shut it, she looks over and, I do not want the baby right now, and he just doesn't say a word, gives you half a second of deer in the headlights, shuts the door, and runs. And I have no children.
I do. I've done that, and it's been done to me.
I have two younger brothers who are 14 and 16 years younger than I am, something along those lines. I've been around plenty of people who have children when they were young, when they've had babies. I have an aunt who's taking care of technically her grandson at the moment, step-grandson. It's a thing. But there's a point being, there's a baby, and he's cute in the way most babies are, but every now and then you're like, you know what? No, you stay here. I'm leaving, and just sneaking in to drop the baby. I wanted that to be a whole scene rather than just the one. I wanted a Mission Impossible style Mike Lowry dropping this baby off.
Who?
And then at the very end, when she sees what's happened, tell Marcus I'm gonna kill him.
Just him suspended from the ceiling. There's lasers everywhere.
Something like that, yeah.
All right, so look. Will Smith tries his level best to elevate garbage material. It doesn't work. It falls flat. He's a horrible character, written badly in this movie. The plot is as by the numbers, paint by numbers, connect the fucking dots.
Up to and including what the twist. He's got a son who's trying to kill him.
I honestly think the pitch, the writing meeting for this was they watched a bunch of classic action buddy cop action movies and just stole bits and pieces of them. And somebody was like, "And the Fast and the Furious, boss," and they were like, "Yeah, throw that in too." And they were like, "Okay, let's make a Frankenstein's monster out of all of these other great movies and slap 2 old black comics on it. Voila, Lobster. Fuck this movie." It was shot mostly in focus.
Mostly.
The action scenes are mostly readable.
All right. Okay, no, hang on, sorry. I have to... You mentioned Martin Lawrence. Really, the star of this movie, for as briefly as he's on screen, is Joe Pantoliano.
Ugh.
Come on. You have to give that man his due in this case.
You know, as far as actors doing, taking direction, and I guess the directors were just yell angrily, and do captain stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Again, this is not a great performance in like the pantheon of great performances, but if you're looking for like the over-the-top beleaguered captain of these two jackasses, like yes, what he did is somewhat remarkable.
Sure. I don't think he approaches the performance of Martin Lawrence, but if this is the hill you're planning on dying on, I'm not going to fight you.
I got more mileage out of him than I did out of Martin Lawrence.
Well, you and I are wired differently. True. No truer words have ever been spoken. So, action sequences are, here's the problem. A lot of the action sequences I think are half pregnant. Like, and I mean, if you think about the level of destruction from the Bad Boys movies, to the point where they're so over the top and silly, they become enjoyable if you're into that sort of thing, and I am. This one, it's as if they were like, what if we tone down the explosions because that's stupid for stupid people, and give them more, meditating on their partnership and aging, and Will Smith whining about being shot and not being allowed to solve his own case like a normal fucking human being. Just all of it. So it's like all of the fun things that make up a Bad Boys movie aren't in this movie. There's approximations and facsimiles of fun things that make up a Bad Boys movie, and that's what this is. If I had to put my own Rotten Tomatoes line out there, this is a collection of approximations and unreasonable facsimiles of what a Bad Boys movie once was. I'll let you have the last word on this, and then we're moving on.
So what you're saying is this is Bad Boys made by woke people.
Yes, sir.
Again, I went into this movie kind of knowing I was not going to enjoy it. This is not my cup of tea. I can enjoy a big dumb action movie from time to time. I really can. Lest you all think of me as some stuffy snob. I can enjoy a dumb action movie.
Him and Alexis Hannah begged me to put Sonic the Hedgehog on the schedule, lest you don't believe him.
I just think there will be stuff to talk about when it comes to that movie, if nothing else.
Go on.
This movie is too long.
Yep.
Let me be clear. When I say it has too many action scenes, I'd rather they removed like 2 of them and made the remaining 3 better. I don't need the shootout where I don't need the arms deal gone wrong shootout like that. If it's going to be 3 minutes, it's stupid anyway. That many people fire that many bullets that close to each other and hit what they hit. I don't need that. This is, I think you're right with it being like half pregnant. Like, if you're gonna do the big stupid action, the closest thing we get to the big stupid action is the car chase that results from that comes about after the club scene. Because they do that, they catch the guy, it resumes, and okay, brief thing about I try not to do my Mr. Wizard stuff with this type of material, but
I love that you've owned that phrase that I mock you with. That's great.
Shooting a propane tank does not cause an explosion. And the fact, because they, again, one of those scenes, Will Smith winds up on the bed of on a flatbed semi that is carrying propane, which is not how propane tanks are transported. Actually, certainly not the full ones. They tend to be more filled locally. Second, if you shoot one of those like big white metal propane tanks, you do not get a big fireball. You get an explosion of cold gas. There's not enough heat to ignite it. You do not get a boom. This is not to say, no, please, look at the Mythbusters episode where they do this. Do not go out there and shoot one yourself. It's still a dangerous thing to do. It just doesn't do what this thinks it does. Again, too long. The action is utterly forgettable and utterly predictable. The characters, such as you can call them characters, are mostly uninteresting. It's never... take for example. It's never really established why Rita is interested in Mike. We know that they're exes.
Well...
But... No. The assumption is just, hey, it's Will Smith.
Hey, look, Will Smith's charisma goes a long way, even in 2020.
Fair enough, but I would have liked to have, had that expounded on just a little bit. If you're going to go the meditative route, hey, let's put a little bit of effort into some of that. Again,
Agreed.
the new characters that they introduce are flat. Vanessa Hudgens basically plays a fangirl, so herself. We have white guy who killed a man with a punch, who actually yells out transition when he goes into a firefight. That was the dumbest thing. Okay, you want to make him the big bruiser who's actually sensitive, okay, fair enough. But he opens fire and then yells transition, proceeds to kill a bunch of people, tackles a stone column so that the guy above it, the structure above it collapses. And then you have the other guy who's mildly antagonistic to Will Smith because, hey, young people and old people, am I right? Oil and water, those two. A lot of this feels like, I think I mentioned this offline, if you want to do a meditation on the characters getting older, there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it even within the Bad Boys aesthetic. But when Will Smith as a person and the character he's playing both still think they're not quite 30 yet and refuse to kind of lean into some of the stuff you need to do to make it more obvious. I mean, there's a wonderful scene in Lethal Weapon 4 when Mel Gibson's character loses just a sparring match. He pretends to throw his shoulder out so he can get out of it. And then just has to acknowledge then he and Danny Glover are back in the locker room and I had to get out of there. My shoulder's fine. He was kicking my butt. And they just kind of have this quiet moment between the two of them, when, Danny Glover passes along the line, hey, man, you're getting too old for this shit. Again, there's ways to do it, but Will Smith's still getting all the zingers. And then, just facing no repercussions for anything that he does. There's none of the evidence of him aging apart from, the joke about him dyeing his goatee.
Can we also talk about the whole point of the movie is recognition of you're getting older, you need to mature, you need to take hold of your life, you need to stop killing people, and it's entirely undercut by the fact that Martin Lawrence gives up all of that. His arc in the movie is you shouldn't work your whole life and enjoy your golden years and be happy with a life well led. You should kill people till you're dead.
There needed to be a scene between where where Martin Lawrence's family tells him, "No, it's okay. Go say Mike's gonna kill himself with what he's doing."
I'm okay with the one last round.
Yeah, when he shows up after the captain dies and goes one more time, I'm there. Okay,
yeah.
This guy who means a lot to you is killed in this. This is all connected. Your best friend is in danger. You've just lost someone who means a lot. This is kind of your catalyst to go for one more ride.
Right.
Okay.
But then it's implied that he's come out of retirement at the end, and they're both a part of Ammo. Yeah, and I'm you just undercut the whole fucking movie. What's wrong with you?
His arc is so deep, it's a circle.
No, Robert, that's just poor writing.
I agree, but I'm sure that's the argument that was put forward.
Ugh. That's the thing, like, this movie has no weight to it. The message of the movie is everything I just said, except that when you get to the resolution, it's like, okay, all that stuff we were talking about in the movie, none of us really believe it. Isn't it fun to kill people? And isn't it fun to kill people? And tits and ass, but tits and ass in a classy way. Put a bra and panties on that. It's fine. Classy. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to add about this. This feels like a... How do I say this? This movie feels like what a film... Like some film student was told, do a movie in the style of Michael Bay, and they couldn't actually commit to the schlock.
Right. Yeah, this movie is so up its own ass. Which is a weird thing to say for movies about tits and explosions.
It really is.
Good God.
It's
like it's a shame to be a bad... I've made this joke before, and in some cases, I truly believe it's what happened. Somebody turned in a script for a new movie, and they were like, have you seen it out there? Unless it's a name people recognize, no one's going to see any of this horse shit. Even if it's by someone they like, or produced by someone they like. Think 21 Bridges.
Hold on. Who was associated with 21... No, the Roosters only produced that.
I just said that.
Yeah, I know, but look, people have... I don't know when people started paying attention to this, mind you, but they have. That a director or a director duo or whatnot producing something else, like, I think I blame J.J. Abrams for this. People have started paying attention to that. Like, oh, J.J. Abrams produced this. Wait, you mean directed? No, produced.
I just listened to our Knives Out review, which, if you haven't had an opportunity yet, and you've just found us on WTM, go back in the archives. It's there. It's from a few months ago. First of all, well done for us. I laughed at a good portion of it. I thought we did a really funny review of that movie, despite, you think we're negative on this. We're like the exact opposite on Knives Out. We're like struggling to find things to say because we were so positive. But one of the things I brought up the same thing then because at that point that was still in theaters and no one saw it. And we had this whole discussion about Chadwick Boseman and the Russo brothers or whatever. Here's the point, because we've already had this discussion. Go listen to it in the Knives Out review. I feel like this might have, and I don't know how true this is, because again, I've read that this was a collaborative effort with Will Smith and everybody else involved, so this probably didn't happen, but it feels like it happened. That somebody had a buddy script lying around, and they were like, this isn't going to get made. No one's going to see a wholly new thing unless it's a name they recognize. And we can't just sell it on an actor anymore. See Gemini Man, not only did the actor not bring anyone out, neither did the director. So fuck all that. And they were like, okay, well, we've got this Bad Boys thing in the works. What we need, girders. We need a structure. Like, well, how about this? How about this other buddy cop thing that talks that's a meditation on aging? And they were like, okay, that gives us something to work with. But don't put all that ass and titty stuff in there because that's just gonna make it. It's gonna make it yucky. Let's keep it clean, guys. Let's keep it classy. And Bad Boys for Life was born. That's what this feels like. This feels like somebody else's idea that they slapped Bad Boys onto.
Yep, pretty much. And let me be clear, as a fan of the Hellraiser franchise, I am very familiar with that bit of production story.
All right, you ready to do the money?
I think if there's anything else I wanted to say, was there anything else I wanted to praise or bash? I suppose this is the closest I can get to this. The way this movie is shot gave me a headache. Literally. I walked out of that theater, got into my car, started driving, and there's this throbbing pain behind my right eye from all the circle shots and fast cuts and shaky cam and just, ugh.
Yeah, that's a director of photography who was told, make what these two people shot
No.
look like Michael Bay.
The director and the editor were the inspiration for John Goodman's coked out character. Like, that's the only excuse I have for some of these shots.
I'm going to go with my thought here is that they shot a fairly direct movie, and then somebody was like, well, we want to trick people into thinking this is a Michael Bay movie, so cut this like it's Michael Bay, and, you know, do some reshoot with the camera, you know, on a roller coaster, just run it all over the scene.
Hold on a sec, not a joke. It feels like that whole bit when they're on the motorcycles between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence was a post-production re-ad. Because they're on this, like, blurred-out back screen having this discussion about, no, I promised I wouldn't put any more violence into the world. God gave you a machine gun. You have to use it. Like, yeah. Because, like, everything before that has a very specific kind of crisp aesthetic as things are moving along. Cut to that prolonged sequence. Cut back to the other one. It feels so jarring.
First of all, the whole I don't want to put violence into the world thing was dumber than dumb. You're in the middle of a high-speed chase going after a murderer, a cop killer. Either you're there or you're not. That's stupid writing. That's just flat out dumb.
You know, the other thing that you could have done, and I think they were kind of setting up for it, but I wonder if this scene didn't get left on the cutting room floor. Because we're talking about, you know, a meditation on what it means to get older and whatnot, it really felt like they were gearing up for a scene where Martin Lawrence kind of tells Will Smith, man, I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do with myself anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he comes back after the captain gets shot, and, you know, there's clearly some motivation there, but again, the way they were setting up him and his house and what's going on.
I thought his family was going to get attacked. I thought that was a big impetus. They don't do anything with it. Like, he knows where he knows who we are. He knows where I live. Which is, I might be conflating that with what happens in the first movie, because again, I just saw that and it was a very similar thing there as well. But either way, you would think that, like, that would be a motivator or they would do something with it, and they don't. They leave. That's another problem with this movie. Boy, do they leave a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that, like, hey, we could have added X, Y, and Z. And...
No, because we need to do a prolonged comedy bit about Martin Lawrence fucking not wanting to shoot a machine gun.
Yeah, or him deciding to touch a hematoma.
Just kick me in the balls. It would be less painful.
Look, after Bloodshot, I might fly down there and take you up on that.
The money?
That trailer angered me.
It's going to be a fun review.
No, it is not. I will not. I will make it my life brief mission. I'm going to make you as miserable talking about that movie as I am watching it.
I love your sexy talk. The money. Here we go.
Money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Crikey. All right. On a budget of $90 million. And again, kudos to Sony keeping the budget down. You know, this would have to have been a Charlie's Angels blunder for it to have lost money. It is currently at $112 million. It crushed the weekend. So congratulations, Sony. You are currently probably the most successful studio after Disney. Warner Brothers and Universal should be ashamed of themselves.
Hold on. I don't think you can say that about Sony given the number of flops they've had. I think when Sony succeeds financially, it's so unexpected.
Jumanji did really well. Jumanji's in the 700 millions at this point.
Jumanji's doing okay. So you've got Jumanji.
They get credited for the Spider-Man movies.
They shouldn't.
They do.
No, that's my big thing. Like, no, I give them zero credit for Spider-Man. Zero. None.
Okay. Well, their balance sheets tell you differently.
Look, they could, if they're able to claim some of the enough of the financial returns to justify that, fair enough. Good on the contract negotiator. You get 0 creative credit. You get 0 kudos for the Spider-Man movies. None.
Okay. Fine.
But, I mean, look, remember, let's not forget, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, no one expected what it did. Right?
Right.
Like, we all thought, okay, little comedy action, adventure romp, sure, it'll be fun. No one thought, hey, billion-dollar idea. Nobody saw Venom and thought, hey, billion-dollar property, except the freaking Chinese, who apparently ate that up with a spoon. I mean, again, Venom domestically did not do all that well.
I'm just giving credit where credit's due. Because here's the thing. Sony, not really a movie house. It is a movie division. But Sony is into electronic hardware. That's Sony. And it wasn't that long ago. They were thinking of just selling off their film division altogether. Hence, a lot of jokes on this show about Disney buying Sony. And given the level of failures that were coming out of that movie house left and right, it seemed plausible.
They had, 3 years of just flops?
Yeah. It's 2016 was probably the high watermark for Sony's going down in flames, led by fucking Ghostbusters, Answer the Call. But since then, they've recovered hard in the movie houses that are struggling. I mean, occasionally, like, people are like, but Joker. Okay, Joker was a wild success. You know what wasn't a success? Fucking Dr. Sleep. Universal, Hobbs and Shaw and How to Train Your Dragon 3 were their 2 big successes of last year. So, I'm just saying, like, right... Warner Brothers and Universal should, whose main thing is movies.
Yeah, like Warner Brothers had Joker last. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can look up a list of movies Warner Brothers released in.
Well, I would go on Box Office Mojo and look things up by studio like I used to be able to, but this website, ugh. I hate it.
I'm kind of sad I can't just find like a list. Okay, and here we go. List of Warner Brothers films, 2000 to present.
2000? 2019, please.
I know. I can scroll through the list. I'm not going to read them all for you, but okay. So they had a big hit at the end of 18 with Aquaman.
Yep.
But as far as 19 goes, yeah, this was not a good year. Holy crap. Okay, Whitesnake bombed. Lego Movie 2 did. I won't say bombed. Wildly underperformed. Isn't It Romantic? Nothing. Nancy Drew released? Nothing. Shazam was okay.
Shazam did okay, but I think they were expecting better. I mean, I guess it must have met whatever the projections were because they're making another one. But when you think of Shazam compared to like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and even Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, yuck.
Well, bear in mind, a lot of this stuff from 2019. This is not an excuse for why it did bad. It's also going to look bad based on what came out in 19.
Sure. Because
there were a lot of giant movies.
Sure.
So Shazam. The Curse of La Llorona, which nobody saw. I'm a horror guy, and even I didn't see that. Detective Pikachu, which was distribution only. Which did, Sun is Also a Star, did, Godzilla King of the Monsters, underperformed.
Yep.
Shaft was a U.S. distribution-only deal, mostly flopped. Annabelle Comes Home, kind of did okay, but kind of flopped. The Kitchen bombed hard.
Oh, cratered and may have touched the core.
Blinded by the Light. Never heard of it before this.
Probably did well among church people.
It Chapter 2 underperformed. The Goldfinch, which, like, even amongst,
It's a prestige picture.
No. Even as a prestige, like, please give us awards picture. I know people who, like, really like those kind of, like, prestige-style films. Even they looked at The Goldfinch and went, this is up its own ass. Joker, wild success. Western Stars, not so much. Motherless Brooklyn, basically flopped. Doctor Sleep, underperformed. The Good Liar, really underperformed. Richard Jewell's only now like really kind of in wide release, and might wind up doing okay. Hang on, let me have a look at that real fast.
Again, prestige picture. Oscar bait.
Yeah, that's not gonna do, big bucks. And then Just Mercy, which was a vanity project for Michael B. Jordan and Brie Larson, I guess. That thing has not actually released its budget.
Okay, now so Warner Brothers had one major success and a bunch of either underperformers or straight flops. Now do Universal.
Jeez, is Universal its own thing? Hang on.
Yes.
All right, hang on. I'm looking. Universal. Okay.
They're NBC. They're part of NBC Comcast.
Okay, hang on. Film library. Okay. Let's see. List of Universal Pictures. It's a long list because they're a old studio. Okay, for 2019 for Universal. Really? Oh, geez, they didn't release a lot last year, actually. Even. Wow. Anyway, what we did release, Glass, which
I think underperformed.
It was profitable.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Minimally profitable.
No. Glass is wildly successful financially.
Okay.
Had a $20 million budget, did $247 million.
All right.
Properly budgeting that movie saved it, but good on them for doing so. Happy Death Day to You, which is a horror comedy, and did okay. Again, horror being what it is. Yeah, that was fine, but it was always going to be a smaller movie.
Sure.
$9 million budget, took in 64 some odd million. How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, which was they only distributed. They did Us, which did quite well.
Yes, it was also widely critically acclaimed.
Yeah, that was $20 million budget, $255 million take.
Okay, so far Universal is kicking the shit out of Warner Brothers.
Little, which I don't know anything about. The Hustle, I also know nothing about. A Dog's Journey, that actually flopped. It flopped. And a box office take of $71 million, certainly underperformed. Especially since the first one was so successful. Ma, which kind of flopped.
Ah!
There it is. The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Underperformed.
Yeah, I hate to say underperformed on a thing that took in $433 million at the box office.
Well, the first one did $1 billion.
Yeah, underperformed. Yesterday, which I don't know anything about. Hobbs and Shaw, which, again, the crazy thing about that movie, when you look at the actual financial breakdown, needed to be $1 billion movie, and it wasn't.
Missed the mark by about $300 million.
Good Boys, which, again, smaller movie, but profitable. $20 million budget, $110 million take. So a lot of these are saved by proper budgeting. So you know what? Good on you. Apparently their entire budget for 2019 went to Hobbs and Shaw.
I was going to say, Universal's model of success then for 2019 was release a fair amount of low-budget movies and hope to God people see them, which, they made some good choices. Okay, so Disney, Sony, Universal, and a deep fourth, Warner Brothers.
So we've also got Abominable. They only distributed. Addams Family only distributed Last Christmas. They distributed Queen and Slim, but only distributed. They co-produced Black Christmas, which did okay, here's where the other half of their budget for 2019 went. They co-produced Cats.
Oh, so
cratered.
So in the year of Warner Brothers, we're going. Oh, we're almost at the end of the tunnel. We're almost through, and there's Rose Tico.
They distribution only for 1917, which is, again, you saw it. You couldn't be here to talk about it, but phenomenal movie.
Sure.
Prestige-style picture.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that was their 2019. And thus far in 2020, they have released Doolittle, which, if I might make the obvious turn of phrase, did little. They have coming up in 2020, so we can kind of mock them later. I'll list this out here. They have The Turning, mediocre horror movie. They're only distributing that, as well as The Photograph. They co-produced The Invisible Man, which looks awful.
Ugh, I'm so mad at you and Alexis for making me review that.
You know what? And look, I will apologize to you for that. If I had seen the trailer first, I would not have made the pitch. I'm gonna say that.
Okay.
Like that, I said that based on, hey, this is a horror. This is, not just a horror franchise, but Universal monster movie. We've done some of the other ones that are kind of part of that. I think this will be a good time. And then, no, it's a Blumhouse movie. Not a bad thing in and of itself. But then I saw the trailer and went, oh, God, they're doing that.
I've made a horrible mistake.
Look, you said, I saw the trailer for this, I hate you for this, and I immediately said, I'm sorry. Can we get, I want to back out of that one.
Nope, now we're committed.
Yeah, I know. They will be doing international distribution and co-production on No Time to Die, the new James Bond movie.
And that'll be fine.
They're co-producing Fast and Furious 9, God help us.
That'll be fine.
No, I hope that craters.
It won't, but go on.
I don't know, people seem to be over those a little bit. They're co-producing Candyman remake, which I'm looking forward to. Co-producing on The King of Staten Island, which I know nothing about, but it's a Judd Apatow movie, so probably terrible. Co-producing Minions: The Rise of Gru, which I anticipate being another billion-dollar property.
God.
The Minions and Gru those haunt your dreams for some reason.
People must be very confused when they hear me, because it's like, well, he praises Bad Boys and Michael Bay, but somehow drew a line at Minions.
Yeah, that's an odd line for you to have drawn, but I've enjoyed all of those movies to one degree or another.
Hey, real quick.
Hang on,
go ahead.
They have The Purge 5, Nobody, Bios, the Halloween Kills, The Croods 2, and News of the World. So they're gambling on a couple of movies for 2020. I think their big gambles are James Bond.
Yep.
Fast and the Furious 9, which is going to have a giant budget.
Yep.
Oh, they're only distributing Bios. They're not produced. They did no production on that, so okay. Yeah, and then Minions. They're gambling pretty hard on 3 movies.
Yeah, in 2021 they've got another Jurassic World movie coming out, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's move this on, just because we're burning daylight here. There's the weekend that was January 17th through the 19th. Bad Boys was number 1, knocked 1917 from 1 to 2. Doolittle debuted at number 3. Just a word about Doolittle. I saw that with my kids, and even my daughter, who generally likes a lot of what I bring her to, was like at first when she walked out of the movies, and she has this element of her personality where she will earnestly and believably say what she thinks you want to hear at times.
No, Dad, I liked Robert Downey Jr.
And so, what did you think of Doolittle, Lily? I liked it. She says, like a pod person. And then later on, we're having dinner with my parents, and my dad goes, "So, Lily, what did you think of Doolittle?" And she makes this face like someone had just farted in her face, and goes, "It's all right." And my dad just looks at me and is like, "That was very underwhelming." Like, wait, explain yourself, Lily. And I think she was trying to say about the movie, it's not what she thought it was going to be. And no shit, Lily. They sold this thing like it was Lord of the fucking Rings.
No. Okay, hang on. Okay, you and I had different experiences with that, because they only released the one trailer. I saw a pitch for a whimsical adventure movie.
Okay, but I think we're saying the same thing differently. this was the idea that what I came away with from the trailers that I saw was they were going for epic fantasy adventure.
Yeah, I did not get that.
Okay, the swelling music and the little bit of what you can
Swelling
get.
music. They have a like slowed down version of what? It's a beautiful world, wonderful world in the background.
Did we not see the same trailers?
Yeah, I only saw the one, but yeah, it's somebody like singing "What a Wonderful World."
All right, without losing the plot here, the point of it is, I feel like this was marketed to people, who were looking for the kind of adult adventure you could bring a kid to, and what they got was a kid movie written with a lot of really stupid kid humor. Like, my son was half asleep through most of it, but when the animals were farting, he thought it was funny. By the way, he also just got a new book called My Butt is Broken. It is the tale of a child who, because he's got a crack in his butt, believes he needs a new butt, Robert Winfree. My son thought this was Eddie Murphy delirious funny.
I weep for the future.
The point, my dear sir, the point is that they wrote this for, like, my son's level of entertainment, which is not the way it was marketed.
I will give you that. This was not sold as lowest common denominator children.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true.
John Cena, the polar bear, in whatever fucking year this is supposed to be in, calling people bro, almost made me get up and walk out of the movie.
Serious question, because Jeff and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, or 2 days ago, because he reviewed it for 411. Is it true that there's times when you just can't understand what Robert Downey Jr. is saying? His accent just like muddles between Welsh and Irish so much that he becomes unintelligible?
So remember how I was talking about characters bumblefucking through Bad Boys for Life?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, it's the same kind of bumblefuck, but it's all verbal.
Okay.
Dr. Doolittle, the Queen needs help. She's sick. What? Dr. Doolittle, you need to go to the Eden tree and find the fruit that brings a panacea to the poison that she's currently suffering from.
So he's talking backwards the whole time?
No, he's fucking drunk is what he is.
No. Like, you know the old thing about if you play a record backwards, that's what he sounds like?
Sure. Bill Cosby used to do a bit about two winos reading a bus schedule.
It's a good one, too.
That's kind of what he sounds like. Here I would have thought. I thought you might have gone with he sounds like when Bill Cosby's bit about going to the dentist when he gets on Novocaine. I will be satisfied.
I believe.
Do you see this? This is my mouth. It was exactly when I came in here. It's kind of what he does sound like, as a matter of fact.
Bill Cosby himself is still one of my favorite stand-up sets ever. Specials. Like, I die laughing watching that.
When my son is older and can really appreciate the finer points of stand-up comedy, it's on the list of things I want to show him. Despite the fact that Bill Cosby is a rapist.
Okay, look. If we limit... I say this...
I just said I wanted to show it to him.
No. This is not for you. This is generally. To everyone out there. If you really want to limit your intake of various artistic endeavors, comedy, film, television, literature, whatever, podcast, I don't care. If you limit that to people you think are morally virtuous, A, you're being deceived half the time, B, you're going to have a very, very narrow experience with the world.
Books written by nuns, that's all you got, and only a few of them. All right, so that's my rant on Doolittle. We got to move this on. Jumanji fell from 3 to 4. Star Wars 2 to 5. Little Women stayed at number 6. Just Mercy 5 to 7. Knives Out, which I guess is back in theaters because of Oscars. Was at 9, rose to 8. Like a Boss. Oof. Poor Paramount Pictures.
Oh, I need a joke. Oh, who was that? Crap.
Did Timmy fall in the well, Lassie?
No, it's just I can't remember this guy's name, and if I have to ask, it'll foreshadow the joke.
Like a Boss fell from 4 to 9. Frozen 8 to 10.
Okay, Like a Boss lost money like the guy in charge of Enron.
Ken Lay?
Yeah, I think so. You know what?
Boo!
Hang on. Much as I love explaining my jokes, if I try to explain this one, it's just going to go on forever.
First of all, date yourself much, you old man?
You're older than I am.
I'm not making Enron jokes, Father Time.
Okay? What would your contemporary version of that be?
Ugh.
So, like someone in charge of a financial institution that is losing money left and right.
Well,
Whose name people will recognize.
Well, nothing's crashed lately. We've done pretty well under our current president. The economy is sound.
That's really mostly what I wanted to get you to say.
Well done. Underwater, 7 to 11. Spies in Disguise, 10 to 12. Weathering with You debuted at number 13. Parasite stayed at 4. Did you see Parasite yet?
No,
it's in a bunch more theaters now.
I will double check. Like, it was here for about a week, and I unfortunately couldn't get to see it because I really wanted to.
Well, it's in like 498 more theaters, so maybe it's in one near your neck of the woods. Jojo Rabbit jumped from well, you can tell it's Oscar season. 22 to 15. Uncut Gems 12 to 16. Ford versus Ferrari, a movie that came out in fucking November. 16 to 17. The Grudge 11 to 18. Drop the Bombshell 13 to 19. And Joker, fucking Joker, 34 to
Still
20.
there.
34 to 20. But hey, Cats fell from 17 to 23.
Crap. Yes, Parasite is back at a couple of theaters around me. I will have to make time for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Joker was re-released in. Yeah, like I scrolled down to the bottom. You're like, oh hey, Joker came back out, as did Parasite.
All right. This week coming up, this Friday is Last Full Measure, which will be it's a Vietnam movie, which we will be reviewing next week. The Gentleman, which is I've seen a lot of advertising. That's from STX Entertainment. Fair competition. Detective Chinatown 3, which is, I guess, which is, being put up by Warner Brothers. Panga, Zombie Child, and The Turning. Oh, gosh, The Turning. Ugh.
Yeah, I am a horror guy. I like horror movies. I watched the trailer for that and went, ugh.
Yeah. All right, so January 31st, not a whole lot here that's any kind of competition of what we're talking about. Got Incitement, The Assistant, The Traitor, Go Mackay, The Rhythm Section by Paramount Pictures.
Look, it's January, February. This is what comes out.
Yeah, this is definitely fuck you, it's January. And then for all of you horror folk, Gretel and Hansel. Hansel?
And then about yourself,
Hansel. All right, and then so Bad Boys has about 2 weeks to make as much money as it can because the next big release that really poses any kind of a threat to the box office, despite it looking like halfway heated up horseshit, Birds of Prey, February 7th. I'm sorry, that's not the whole title. Hang on.
No, dear God, don't.
Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Okay, someone who knows Mark, I need you to hit him for me for that.
Fantabulous. Are you feeling fantabulous, Robert P. Winfree?
That is not my middle initial. Okay, that is not my middle initial. Fantabulous is not a word. Even if it were, I imagine I have never experienced something even roughly approximating that kind of ludicrous sentiment.
You know what approximates ludicrous intent?
That movie.
Rotten Tomato reviews. Here we go.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Chris Knight of the National Post. I wouldn't go so far as to call the product fine wine, but a little extra aging seems to have done it no harm. So what you gonna do?
Did he add that?
Yes, he did.
Wow, really? You hack.
Winfree, Winfree, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
I will not reveal my plans on the air. Because I'm sure I'm being monitored.
Dan Scully of Cinema 76. Watching these two hilarious characters
Shut up.
navigate middle age is endlessly entertaining, and it serves as a showcase for the talents of both performers.
No, it doesn't.
You know, as a guy who went to the movies to see one of Martin Lawrence's stand-ups, I'm going to go ahead and say this doesn't showcase his comedic performance.
At all. Look, if you think that the height of Martin Lawrence's capabilities is him weeping over a newborn, going, "But Mike, the baby," you, sir, are. I don't even like Martin Lawrence's stand-up, and I know he's capable of better.
I think the stand-up that I saw in theaters was the one after he was, like, running naked down the road or whatever it was he did. And he does this whole, like, prolonged bit about what was really going on, and then at the end of it, he's like, "Nah, dude, I was high as fuck. I'm just playing."
Okay, that's actually pretty funny. Like this well-publicized incident. No, there's actually a story here. Let me take you through it point by point. Okay, now you can see what happened, right? Yeah, I was so high.
Yeah, I know Martin Lawrence might not be in your wheelhouse, but at his best, he is a very creative and funny fellow. And so is Bill Cosby, right? It's the name of the Bill Cosby album. Bill Cosby's a very funny fellow, right?
Yes.
Vicky Roach of Daily Telegraph, also a very funny fellow.
Not really.
It's also a woman. Get it? Never mind.
How do you know?
She could be identifying as a giraffe. I don't want to shame. Bad Boys for Life sticks to the commercially successful formula of the first two films. Was there? No, it doesn't.
No, look, hang on.
Hang on. Was there any other option?
Was there any other Is that genuinely a question you want to ask about the infinite possibilities of what's capable with cinema?
That's what she says here, yes.
Okay, you moron. Yes, there's other options. There's always other options. To the point you made, this does follow the Bad Boys formula. It just does it badly. That's like, okay, no. What you just said is like saying, you know what, this pisswater beer is not alcoholic. No, there's booze in there. The fact that it's not the same as wood grain alcohol, it does not mean that there's no alcohol. It just means it's done badly and diluted. I don't even drink and I can make that comparison.
Charlotte O'Sullivan of the London Evening Standard, top critic. Best of the best. The plot is daft. Mexicans are out for Mike's blood, but it's knowingly daft. And
No,
even
it's not.
minor characters.
No, it's.
Oh,
it
wait,
is
I haven't
not
gotten to the best part yet. Damn it.
This is not knowingly daft.
Damn you, Winfree.
Keep going.
But it's knowingly daft, and even minor characters manage to shine. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Okay, madam. Who did Vanessa Hudgens play then? Can you name me a character? Got a name? How about the big sensitive white guy who does all the tech stuff? No? How about the abrasive Asian fellow. No? Can't name the character? Can't give me a name for the character? How about the assassin? Got a name for me? No? Then shut up. You couldn't name me those characters without looking them up if you tried.
Jackie K. Cooper of JackieKCooper.com.
Self-employed loser.
Thank you. Wow, you didn't make me work for it or beg for it this time.
If I make you do it every time, it's not. I have to keep you off balance. That's the goal.
Well said. This movie is titled Bad Boys, but is really Will Smith's movie, and it will do a lot to redeem his career.
Wow. Really? No.
First of all, he's in a top $10 billion movie from last year. I think he's fine.
Hang on, what was he in that did $1 billion last year?
Aladdin.
Oh yeah, he was in Aladdin. I genuinely forgot he was I have blocked so much of the live action Aladdin from my memory because it's stupid. Yeah, no, this is not going to redeem the man's career. He's going to have ups and downs like everybody. He had a very public down recently with Gemini Man. He's bounced back. He was a perfectly acceptable genie, I suppose. I mean, in all seriousness, given that you can't do Robin Williams, if you're going to have a genie in an Aladdin movie, and you're going to have a genie in an Aladdin movie, he's about the best choice you could have made, realistically.
I thought when we reviewed it, we overall said, if you're going for sort of a hip-hop aesthetic for your movie in general, I think Will Smith was a perfectly good choice, and I think he does exactly what that character was supposed to do in that movie.
Yeah, again, you can listen to our review of Aladdin for more nuanced discussion of that. But yeah, he was. Yeah, Bad Boys is not going to revitalize the flagging career of Will Smith. It's not flagging. He's fine. He has ups and downs like everybody.
Anthony Ray Bench, a film threat, and what a threat it is. I enjoyed Bad Boys for Life quite a bit. While not as solid as the previous two entries, I still think it's definitely worth a watch.
Well, good for you.
Good grief, these fucking reviews.
I mean, in all seriousness, that's one of the more useful reviews we've gotten.
Yeah.
Just, not as good as the other two, but still probably worth a watch. I
So-
disagree, but hey.
Sergio Lopez Aguirre in Cine Premier is looking for the Spanish parties here. Without Michael Bay's footprint, the film receives a welcome actualization. Ugh, gag me with a spoon.
Wow, date yourself much, old man?
Shut up, Enron.
Dude, that's older than Enron. Don't even try.
You were saying our other good friend Sergio.
Well, wait, that's actually that's all the blurb we have?
Without Michael Bay's footprint, the film receives a welcome actualization.
I'm sorry. I'm going to assume you tried to say woke and it got mistranslated into English.
Wait. Because I know that I know you know your action films. And I know that you have a measuring stick that is very precise for what makes a good action film and what doesn't. So you need to hear Alberto Corona's Sensasine as he tries to explain to you, don't you understand, dear man, that this Bad Boys for Life is an exemplary action film.
It's not, but okay, go ahead and try.
Oh, that's it? All right.
No, you hang on. No, like you said, he was going to try and explain to me. Go ahead.
All it says here is it's an exemplary action film.
Oh, you want me to tell him what? That's all he. Wait, that's all he says. Is this is an exemplary action movie?
Yeah.
Exemplary. You couldn't just say serviceable, because I might have given you a pass on serviceable, but this action spectacle that will hold up next to the like of the Avengers or Indiana Jones.
I don't know. Go ahead.
No!
Thank you.
Just
Christ.
no, this is not exemplary. This is pedantic and serviceable.
I don't try
That's
this hard
about it.
I don't try this hard with girls. What's with you tonight? Give it to me when I feed you. All right, awkward silence aside. Paul McGuire Grimes of KSTP-TV. I don't understand this review. I don't understand what he's trying to say here. The comedic banter is really great between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. All right, so good so far.
It's about 50-50.
Well, no, at least that was an intelligible sentence.
Yeah, okay. That is a cogent point.
If you want counter-programming, this is great for that. Wait, what?
What are you counter-programming?
What?
Hold on.
I'm confused.
I'm genuinely curious what you think this film is trying to counter-program.
Like, what, Rambo? Because that's not in theaters anymore. Doolittle didn't have a political message last I checked.
I think when he means... if he's saying counter-programming, he means everyone's... there's a big release that is, say, targeted at families. Here's something for everyone who doesn't want to go see something that will that is designed to entertain a 6-year-old.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what he's going for there. It's still an odd claim. Did you expect Doolittle to be a monster success? There's no counter-programming in January. It's freaking January, man. You counter-program, the glut of rom-coms on Valentine's Day with a horror movie. That's counter-programming. This is not counter-programming anything. It just got released. Like, there's no deep thought put into when should we release Bad Boys for Life. Incidentally, they missed a real opportunity to make a fourth one with 4 Life and just have the letter 4.
Well, it's coming.
Number 4. God damn it. Number 4.
Caillou Pettis. Why?
This person's parents did not love them.
This child was raised by wolves. Caillou Pettis of Battle Royale with Cheese.
With cheese.
Bad Boys, we mock you, sir. We shan't be taking you seriously. We shall mock you accordingly. Bad Boys for Life may not contain a gripping or dramatic story. Good start.
Boy, howdy does it not.
But it does contain exactly what it should. Exciting action sequences, great humor, and fun performances.
Okay, let's take these in reverse order. There is no fun performance here. There are serviceable performances. None of them I would categorize as fun. 2, the action in this movie is utterly forgettable. It is not thrilling at all. Not even close. Okay. Do you take issue with that? I have to ask. Do you take issue with my statement that the action in this movie is forgettable?
Yes, I've already forgotten most of it.
Okay, so you agree with me then. Okay. And what was his first point again? Sorry, I broke my train of thought there.
That his name is Caillou and nobody loves him.
Okay, there's that.
Hey, you want to hear what Matt Brunson, Matt Brunson, here's a man who goes to all the parties but nobody notices him.
You know what? No. This is a man whose invitation to the parties is perpetually lost in the mail.
No, I think he goes.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he gets invited by name. I think he's invited amongst a mass of people. Like he's one of the people in a group. Kind of like when you board an airplane.
He's perpetually someone's +1. That's
sure.
What he is.
Yeah, but nobody notices him when he talks. Nobody's really acknowledging him. And he's just Matt Brunson of Creative Loafing.
This useless waste of humanity.
If Bad Boys ranks as one of Michael Bay's better movies, and Bad Boys 2 ranks as one of his worst, go fuck yourself, first of all.
Hang on, yeah. In all seriousness, it doesn't and it doesn't. If
Where...
you want, look, we have to have this. Hang on, before we get to his point.
I'm just Googling Michael Bay's movies now because I know where this is now headed.
We need... Okay, Michael Bay's best movie versus Michael Bay's worst. Bad Boys 2, while absolutely terrible, is...
That's debatable.
No, it is not. Absolutely terrible. Potentially enjoyable, still a terrible movie. I would rather watch that than either of the last 3 Transformers movies.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you that his worst movie is... Did he direct the last... Yeah, the last... Hang on.
Look, The Last Night is irredeemable garbage. Age of Extinction is irredeemable garbage. We can stop there.
No, hang on. Okay, yeah, The Last Night was directed by Michael Bay. That's probably his worst movie.
It is absolutely... The Last Night is awful. It has no redeeming qualities.
Yeah, I, as an ardent defender of the Transformers franchise, we ran that one into the ground. I don't know.
Hang on. Age of Extinction is almost as terrible.
Let's do this right. I'm looking at his filmography. Okay, I don't feel like doing a deep dive here.
We can just go in reverse order.
Well, I'm taking it from the top, from 1995. Okay, Bad Boys,
Okay.
Not his best, not his worst. The Rock, probably one of his best.
I'd say The Rock is his best, in all seriousness.
Armageddon, near the top.
Yeah, that's actually, again, issues of editing aside and nonsensical nature of some of the story, still near the top of Michael Bay's filmography.
Pearl Harbor, I think, is universally panned.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's not as bad as The Last Night, but it's there.
Yeah.
Bad Boys, just to move this forward, is on the high end of the low end.
I'd say low end of... I don't know. Let's keep going. Hang on. Just keep going.
The Island. I don't even know what that is.
Oh, that was not good. That is a depressingly bad movie in some respects.
Transformers is probably near the top.
If we're talking Michael Bay's filmography, yeah, that's probably top 3, top 4.
Revenge of the Fallen,
Terrible.
middle to the bottom. Dark of the Moon, solidly in the
Terrible.
middle.
No. Okay, Dark of the Moon is somewhat redeemed by the third act war sequence. Still bad.
Pain and Gain, probably in the middle.
Been too long since I've seen it to comment.
I don't want to talk about Age of Extinction anymore with you.
Terrible.
13 Hours, Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. I asked Andrew Graham what he thinks of that one.
It's, while in many respects inaccurate, if we're talking about just the film craft, it's probably on the higher side of Bay's filmography.
Okay, so in this exercise, I think we firmly established that the Bad Boys franchise is not the best nor the worst.
In all honesty, Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2 are probably like right next to each other on his list. Like there might be one movie between them, depending on who's making the list, but no, the first is not among his best, and the latter is, at this point, like if you'd written that same thing 5 years ago, I might have seen it. I might have seen the point.
Eric D. Snyder seems like the kind of guy who would flash you and not approvingly. Like, trench coat, just pull the trench coat apart.
Okay, yeah, he's that kind of... That's the read you have on this individual, okay.
Of Crooked Marquis, Eric D. Snyder. Come on, look at his picture and try to disagree with me.
I'd really rather not.
All the ridiculousness of a 90s action flick, only without the gay panic jokes and the gleeful shots of people dying and their corpses being desecrated. Progress!
Did he actually say progress?
He really did. This asshat, this schmuck.
Yeah, buddy. I don't know. Unless you mean that ironically. In which case, okay, fair play.
Here,
I'm going to assume you meant that seriously. And, no.
Here, chew on this. Jeffrey Lyles of Lyles' Movie Files.
Self-employed loser.
Proves that some franchises really are timeless, no matter how long they wait for the next installment.
Oh, get bent. The Bad Boys franchise.
So desperate.
A timeless action franchise, Mark Radulich.
God, Jesus. Gone with the Wind, A Christmas Carol, Bad Boys.
You know what? The fact that he is making the point you made in jest, in earnest. A timeless action franchise, I want someone to drop a watermelon on this guy's head.
Okay, I think we all know I don't wish harm on people, and I'm trying to change my rhetoric somewhat to not be violent sounding. And I know that you're not supposed to say violent things about women in particular.
Look, if a woman says...
But we're going to end on this one.
Okay.
Because Amy Nicholson...
If what you have read has driven you to now qualify how much you're trying to change your rhetoric...
Amy Nicholson of Film Week, who... we don't read a lot of her stuff, but... I don't think there's a single time that I've looked at what's been taken out of her article and posted on Rotten Tomatoes and read it and went like, I agree with you. Like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and Amy Nichols is from the Gamma Quadrant. Jesus fucking Christ with this woman. Top critic, by the way. I would pound Red Bull and watch it with you again.
I'm sorry. I would pound a Red Bull and watch it again.
That's not a review. That's a tweet.
How does that... Yeah. And a bad one.
Well, I mean, tweets are almost all bad, including my own.
I mean,
Hang
sure,
on.
it's Twitter. Like, there's only so much you can do with 140 characters.
Hang on, I gotta read a couple of these in succession now, and then we'll end, because I can't do this anymore.
Boy, I know what she's doing tonight, pounding a Red Bull and hitting the theater again.
Jamie Davis of Movie John. I don't know what that is. Don't try to fight it, because the rhythm is gonna get you. The rhythm is gonna get you. The rhythm is gonna get you. Tonight, ha-cha-cha.
You actually say that?
It does say the rhythm is gonna get you, yes.
Not even the right song, you giant ignoramus. Wow.
That's okay. Kevin Marr of the Times UK top critic called it a triumph. A fucking triumph.
You know, I'm going to assume that's because this is what this person thinks American police work actually looks like. Like, his genuine assessment of how American law enforcement operates is the Bad Boys franchise. And he's happier being over in England where everyone's knifed every 20 seconds.
I think we've... Oliver Jones of Observer. God, they just get so bad. Top critic. Did anybody ask for this? No. But perhaps we should have.
No.
No again. I don't work for Sony.
Yeah, like, are you trying to get on the DVD cover? I mean, I know the DVDs aren't really a thing anymore, but yeah, that reeks of please pay attention to me.
Ugh.
No, nobody asked for this, and no one should have asked for this. It's a Bad Boys sequel. Why in God's name would anyone ask for this if they're not getting paid to do so?
Okay, your granddad weighed in. Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal, top critic. Oh, Grandpa.
How is Old Man Morgenstern not dead?
An unexpected something sneaks up on us as the story unfolds. I believe he's describing the stroke he had.
It started over the course of this 2-hour movie. He just slowly lost feeling in half of his body.
I shouldn't laugh at old people having a stroke. Okay.
It starts in the toes and works its way up.
Let's get serious here. An unexpected something sneaks up on us as the story unfolds. In between the volcanic eruptions of violence and mayhem, the film takes its buddies seriously, with such outsized sincerity that we can take them to our hearts.
No. Okay, look, in all seriousness, if there's a thing this movie does have going for it, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith do have a good degree of on-screen chemistry. That said, what about this relationship leads you to write that sentence?
All right, we really are going to end with this one, okay? Because I always find the one that's going to break you and make you curse, and I feel like I found it here. Even if you don't curse, I'll be very disappointed if you're like, meh. So, are you properly stretched out? Are you ready?
Are you prepared for disappointment?
Oh. What are you, like, taking care of a baby? You can't yell?
I'm just saying, are you prepared for disappointment?
Win, lose, or draw, this is the last one I'm going to read. I'm literally going to shut the page down after this.
Go for it.
Radhayan Simon Pile of Now Toronto, NOW, capital NOW, Now
It's yelling at you.
Toronto. Bad Boys for Life's relationship to its predecessors becomes what The Irishman is to Goodfellas and Casino.
Wow.
Yay! Get him, Winfree.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to give this guy credit that he has not necessarily earned, but I'm going to give it to him and explain kind of. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm thinking more about this, and the more I'm thinking, no, The Irishman's not that good. Like, no.
He's the little film critic that could. He's trying so hard.
Okay, the notion that The Irishman is somehow like the great successor, quasi. It's not actually deconstructionist, but saying that will kind of imply this is not a revisit and then lamentation about the types of people in movies like Goodfellas and Casino. That it's just, again, The Irishman is not that good. B, this movie is, if anything, a quasi-refutation of everything that made the first two what they were. Now, don't get me wrong, if you think that should be refuted, fair play. But you are absolutely trying to draw comparisons that are really not there when held up to scrutiny. Moreover, Casino and Goodfellas to The Irishman are like loosely connected via themes. They're not direct sequels. This is. The fact that you're saying the relationship is tangential at best. I mean, I get it. The second one came out 17 years ago. You don't want to have to make people pay attention to that movie. Not only because it sucked, but because of how long ago it was. But reinventing these characters, like, hey, here's Mike. You know him. You've seen a couple of movies. Well, guess what? The most formative events of his life took place well before them. Don't you feel stupid for watching those movies? I mean, you should feel stupid for watching the Bad Boys movies because they're the Bad Boys movies, but come on, man.
And I believe that is the end of our discussion. We've been at this for a while. All right. This Thursday, we continue our look at the Bad Boys franchise by looking at the first two movies and putting them... by looking at the first two movies as we dust off Long Road to Ruin. I'm not going to do too many of these through the year. I want to focus more on trials than I want to do whole franchises, but I thought this would be... I honestly might not have done this had I known there was going to be a fourth one, but I've made a decision and now I'm stuck with it. So, hey! Long Road to Ruin, Bad Boys franchise, this Thursday.
Well, hey,
Sean
guess
Comer.
what? In 2 years, when they make the fourth one and everyone hates it, you and Sean can do this again for this one.
Nope, I don't look back.
That is very obvious.
Also,
you are walking proof of the axiom that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Indeed. All right. With that said, we've got a review of Mystic Prophecy Metal Division coming up on the Metal Hammer of Doom. It's our first actual metal album review of 2020, so we hope you'll join us for that. In the archives, in no particular order, source material: Star Wars Blood Ties, A Tale of Boba and Jango Fett, NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2, source material: Crisis on Infinite Earths, TV Party for The Mandalorian, TV Party for the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths. And,
it was terrible.
Thank you. And I believe that's... Oh, and we did a Showbox cards. We did some boxing. We did Vladimir Shishkin versus Ulysses Sierra. Myself and John War took care of that. So go ahead and check those out. The next Damn You Hollywood, in theory, will be a week from tonight. We'll be doing a review of The Last Full Measure. So go ahead and check that out when it
I
drops
am waiting for Mark to find a way out of it.
on the W2M network. Before we shift over to Robert to give his plugs and then get out of here for the night, just want to remind everybody we're on the W2M network feed now. Go in any of your podcast apps, find W2M, the letter W, the number 2, the letter M network, and you'll find us, along with all the other great podcasts on W2M. Most of our archive stuff is there. All of our new stuff's going to be there. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Apple iTunes podcasts, do us a favor. Leave a review. Tell us what you think. Tell us your secrets. No. Just, a quick word. If you like the podcast, great. If you don't, cool, just whatever. Go ahead and just throw up a few words. You can literally do it on your phone while you're listening to the podcast if that's the app you're choosing to use. And if you don't necessarily want to leave a review because that's a pain in the ass, at least give us a couple of star reviews. I'm not going to ask you to do 5. Everyone says give us a 5-star review. I used to say give us a 1-star review because I'm an antagonistic jerk like that. However, you give us the amount of stars you believe we deserve. It helps with other people finding us. So at the very least, if you think other people should listen to our show, but you just don't have the time or the effort to put it out on your own social media or don't want to admit to others that you listen to us, which I would understand, then at the very least, leave us a star review. And the more star reviews we get, the higher rankings we get, the more easier it is for people to find us. There are 700 zillion podcasts out there. Help us be one of the few that is easily found. Robert Winfree, your plug, sir.
Well, like Mark said, we'll be back here next week talking about Last Full Measure. And hopefully we can have some interest. I mentioned this last week, and it's stuff that I wind up kind of putting on the schedule. At least it spawns discussion because it's either really good or it's really bad, but it's like a quasi-spectacular failure. And there's something interesting to talk about. So we'll see if this one bucks the trend, one way or the other. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast on the 411 Podcasting Network. This last Sunday, myself and Jeff Harris had a review of UFC 246, where Donald Cerrone did his best impression of a potato and got devoured by an Irishman. Of course, Conor McGregor stopping Donald Cerrone in like 40 seconds. Cerrone officially landed 0 strikes.
Yeah, that was $65 well spent, since I saw none of the rest of the pay-per-view.
You spent $65 for a glorified high-level tune-up fight.
Yeah, and half of the Holly Holm horseshit.
Yeah, that fight sucked.
Yeah, it did.
So you can listen to us review all of that. We preview this upcoming card this Saturday, the UFC event in Raleigh, North Carolina, headlined by Junior Dos Santos and Curtis Blades.
I'm not covering with him because, in theory, John Warren and I will be doing the Showtime fight, Garcia versus Red Catch.
Look, Mark, you're not covering that event with me because it's not a very good card.
And if you don't want to hear Robert's MMA coverage or my boxing coverage, hey, WWE Worlds Collide's also on that night.
Yeah, you can find me providing live play-by-play updates on UFC events most normally over in the MMA zone of 411 Mania. This Friday, actually, I'm pinch hitting for Larry Zonka to cover Friday Night SmackDown.
Ugh.
What? Ugh.
Ugh.
What are you ughing?
That's adorable. Do it again.
What?
Ugh.
What are you ughing?
Yeah, that. I like when you do it. You sound like an old man. You sound like an old Jewish man who operates a diner deli.
Ugh.
You feel like that's a sound you make when you're getting a bucket full of pickles. Fucking SmackDown. SmackDown sucks. Raw sucks. WWE sucks.
You just don't like. Okay, fair enough. Like that's what all you had to do was say the WWE's product sucks. I wouldn't have disagreed with you.
I mean, the Worlds Collide show will be good, and the Royal Rumble is the Royal Rumble, but generally speaking, the WWE's main product is just terrible. Ugh.
Yeah, it's not in a good spot right now. Ugh, oy vey.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'll be there Friday, and I will be providing updates for that as it happens. Yay me.
You poor bastard.
Look, man, I sat through the UFC 246. That was 6 hours of stuff. You know what? If nothing else, the UFC event schedule.
What else is happening Friday night that he can't do it himself?
There's an NWA pay-per-view.
The rap group?
No.
Oh, the hard
Wow.
time.
Wow. Your first thought when talking about things Larry Zonka would be doing instead of SmackDown is Ice Cube and Dr. Dre reuniting.
And a dead Eazy-E, done by projection.
No,
I don't think there's anything more to say tonight.
They'd have dug up his body. Let's not beat around the bush.
And
They would have someone marionette his corpse.
And now to rap, I got no strings. Eazy-E.
Yeah. So he's covering apparently there's an NWA pay-per-view on that, so.
Hard times, baby.
Look, if anything, the UFC's event schedule and doing their 6 hour or so start to finish broadcasts has deadened me too. It's WWE's product might suck, but it's only 2 hours.
Did he run out of wrestling writers?
I don't know.
Okay,
It might be a Friday thing. It's
okay. Look,
they asked. I said yes.
I know got. You that's your charm and your lot in life is you always say yes, much like me. Here's my problem with this: they had like 97 other people doing television reports. What happened to them?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. It might be alive. Like there might be plenty of people who will do write-ups after the fact, but no one else is going to do it live.
Okay. I'm not asking any more questions because I don't want any more answers.
I will tell you what. Next time I'm asked, I will probably say yes unless I have something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I will kind of just for the sake of my general knowledge. Everyone else's Friday is sacrosanct, apparently, except mine.
All right, hurry up and get done here. Let's go.
So that's where you can find me over the next couple of weeks. Again, this next Sunday, we'll have a review of that event. We're going to have an early preview of UFC 247 because the Super Bowl is on Sunday the 2nd, and I have a family tradition around the Super Bowl that will run over my normal recording time. If there is a drastic change to UFC 247, I will record sometime earlier in the morning on Sunday to update. If not, we're just doing it early, and the Super Bowl is a week that there will not be a podcast for a Ground and Pound show. I might try to do some other kind of in-between thing. Some of the stuff that I've done for those in-between stuff has been well received. Some of it has cratered. So
Really?
You can't... Oh, buddy. I told you that like that one I did on this is only on YouTube, by the way, but the one on YouTube I did for Volkanovski is like nearly at 1,000 views.
That I knew, and I was very jealous. I mean, you deserve success, but still jealous.
At the moment, last time I wound up glancing through the list the other day. I think it was like 955 or 995.
So what was cratered?
Oh, the other the Usman one. Just no one cared. The Covington one was if he did all right. The one I did on Usman, which first of all, from a quality perspective, I'm personally not all that thrilled with, but I wanted to do one for Usman and one for Covington before their fight. I did, and then just no one cared.
Okay.
Yeah, those both just kind of again, the Covington one was iffy, did all right, but the Usman one just nope. No one cared about Kamaru Usman.
All right.
So, anyway, there might be something like that if there's a thing worth. I mean, I could always find something, but I don't want to overly dilute.
No one gives a shit about John Jones versus Pepe Reyes.
You know, here's the thing. They should.
But they don't.
I know, but in all seriousness, Dominic Reyes has probably the best chance anyone's had recently. He's about John's height in terms of size. He's a devastating kicker. And I'm still picking John, for the record. Like, I have never picked against John Jones. And I'm going to be wrong one of these times. He's going to lose. Everybody does. But I think a lot of people are sleeping unfairly on Reyes. I'll put it like that.
Okay.
So that's what you've got coming up for me. Next week we'll have Last Full Measure. Towards the end of the month, we will have our TV party for The Witcher, the Netflix series, which I believe I'm going to be a part of. Since Mark has not jumped in to correct me and say, no, it's just me and so, then I believe I have assumed correctly.
You have assumed correctly.
Yay me. Trying to think what else. So there's going to be that. And then, I think we've gone over everything else that I wanted to touch on. I suppose I can pimp this, I guess. I'm very much looking forward to the last few episodes of BoJack Horseman coming out on the 31st of January. I am prepared to cry over that.
And we'll be covering it for a TV party at some point in the very near future.
Yeah, we're going to do one for just the whole series because we are. I look forward to Mark watching that show and talking about it. That'll be fun.
All right. Let's get out of here.
Oh, I have to lament.
Ugh.
Hang on, only because this relates to the schedule. Because you and I had set to do a TV party later in the year for Mindhunter. I think we're just going to do both seasons, right?
Probably.
This
it's
last
over.
week,
Is it over now, or is it's on hiatus? What happened?
One of those two. Like, they've just indefinitely suspended production on season 3.
Fine, we'll probably do both seasons then.
And they have, and they've also, like, let the actors essentially out of their contracts. Like, okay, go do other things. You have families to feed. We don't want to hold these over your heads while we sort stuff out. So, yeah, I'm very sad about that. I really enjoy that show. And it's a shame.
About Ray?
What?
It's a shame about Ray.
I don't know the reference.
It's a Lemonhead song.
I do not know the reference. I don't know. There's a band called the Lemonheads.
Anything else, sir?
Nope, on that somewhat non sequitur.
All right, folks. For Robert Winfree,
there's a band called the Lemonheads.
And for the last 20 minutes of utter nonsense, this has been.
Thank you, everybody. We deeply appreciate that you guys choose to spend of your time with our silliness. We love you.
Look, the first 2 hours was solid podcasting. This last 20 minutes was fuckery wrapped in barbed wire. And for Robert Winfree, I'm Mark Radulich. This has been the W2M Network and the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Be well, be safe, and behave.